Greed, the deadly sin of insatiable appetite. Punishment for greed in the mid-ages, being boiled in oil. In Christian theology, greed, also known as avarice or covetousness, is defined as an inordinate or insatiable desire for material possession, wealth, power, any worldly good. It is a selfish and an extensive longing for more than one's needs. The key distinction is that greed is not about having money or possessions, but about disordered love of them. A person could be wealthy without being greedy if they are generous and view their wealth as a tool for good. Conversely, a poor person can be consumed by greed if their heart is fixated on the desire for riches. As Apostle Paul wrote, the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. 1 Timothy 6:10. Origin of the term. The concept of greed is a fundamental vice, has deep roots in both pagan philosophy and biblical tradition. Biblical roots, the idea of greed is strongly condemned throughout the Bible. The 10th commandment directly addresses, you should not covet your neighbor's house, you should not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox or donkey, or anything that's your neighbor's. Exodus 20:17. Greek philosophy, the Greek word comes translated as greed as the New Testament as pleonasia, which means a desire to have more. This concept was used in ancient Greek philosophy to describe excessive desire for more than one's due, often at the expense of others. Early Christian classification, the grouping of greed as a capital or deadly sin, came from the early Christian monks and theologians. Evagrius Ponticus listed it as one of the 8 evil thoughts. In the 4th century, later Pope Gregory I refined this list in the 7 deadly sins. In the 6th century, formally cementing greed's place as a primary vice. Why was it labeled deadly? Greed is idolatry. The Bible equates greed with idolatry by placing an immoderate desire for wealth and possessions at the center of one's life. A person makes their worldly goods their ultimate concern, effectively replacing God. This is the ultimate spiritual offense, fundamental act of worshiping created things rather than the Creator. It's a root of other sins, like other capital sins. Greed is a source from which other, more obvious transitions can arise. Greed can lead to theft, treachery, fraud, and violence. Hardens the heart and makes a person insensible to mercy, as St. Thomas Aquinas noted. It destroys relationships. Greed is inherently selfish and causes a person to view others as a means to an end. It corrodes relationships with family, friends, and community, leading to a life of isolation and discontent. The greedy person becomes a servant to their possessions, unable to find contentment or true fulfillment. The parable of the rich fool, Luke 12, illustrates this point perfectly. The man who stores up his wealth for himself, but has no relationship with God, and his life is ultimately meaningless. Greed is not considered a passive or cardinal sin. It's a spiritual sin. It's a sin of misplaced worship. The Bible repeatedly equates greed with idolatry by placing an immoderate desire for wealth, possession, or power to the centers of one mind. A person makes their worldly goods their God. This is a deliberate act of will to love a created thing more than Creator. It's a spiritual offense, not a physical one. St. Paul wrote in Colossians 3:5, put to death greed, which is idolatry. It's a sin of intellect and will. Unlike cardinal sins, sins of the body, greed is driven by physical appetites and passions. Greed originates from mind's desire to possess and control. A person can greedily without committing a single physical act. The sin of this insatiable longing and constant mental obsession with having more. It's a capital sin. Greed's a capital or deadly sin because it's a root from which other sins can grow. Theft and fraud, the desire for more money can lead a person to steal, lie, or cheat. Murder and violence, in extreme cases, greed can be a motive for violent crimes. Hard-heartedness, spiritual sin. Greed can make a person insensible to the needs of the poor and a lack of mercy, compassion, and generosity. It's not a cardinal sin because it's not a sin of the body. It's a sin of the will and mind. It's not a passive sin. Passive sins are sins of omission, not acting or not doing something you're supposed to. The sin sin of greed is not a simple desire for money or possession. It's a deep psychological and spiritual disorder of variety of underlying motives. These motives often stem from a sense of lack or misplaced search for fulfillment, insecurity, and fear and scarcity. This is a powerful and common motive for greed. A person may be driven to a deep-seated fear of not having enough, whether that fear is based on past experience of poverty or simply an irrational anxiety, fear or loss. The greedy person's desires for more is often intertwined with the fear of losing what they already have. This can lead to hoarding and an inability to share, as they believe that every resource they have is essential for their security, regardless of how much they have accumulated. False sense of security. In a materialistic society, wealth and possessions are often equated with security and safety. The greedy individual seeks to accumulate a vast amount of resources to feel secure against future misfortune, feeling that is never truly achieved. The constant pursuit is more of a desperate attempt to fill a bottomless pit of fear. The pursuit of power and control. Greed is not always about money itself, but the power and control that it comes with. Social dominance. In many societies, wealth is a primary indicator of status and power. A person may be motivated by greed to accumulate more than others to feel superior, exert influence, and control situations and people. It's a manifestation of pride that the individual seeks to elevate themselves above their peers, compensating for feelings of inadequacy. Some people seek wealth and power to compensate for feelings for low self-esteem or personal inadequacy. They believe that a high social or financial status will validate their worth and make them feel important, feeling they may not have in their personal lives. We're going to cut it there. I'll be right back with the rest of greed, the sin of insatiable appetite.